You've probably noticed that the world doesn't always give us the leaders we hope for. Sometimes, the people in charge seem distant, overly rigid, or afraid to show up as their true selves. And if you're honest, that can leave you feeling frustrated, unmotivated, or even a little lost. But here's the truth. If you want a different kind of leadership, it starts with you. You must become the leader you wish you had. Leadership starts with you. It begins not with a title, a corner office, or a position of authority, but with the choices you make every day, the way you show up, and the values you embody. You cannot rely on someone else to create the culture, the inspiration, or the courage you wish to see. True leadership is an inside-out process. It requires self-awareness, reflection, and a commitment to act in alignment with your principles, even when no one is watching. When you take responsibility for the energy, the tone, and the impact you bring to every interaction, you set the foundation for others to follow, not because they have to, but because they want to. This kind of leadership requires introspection. You must first understand yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, and your motivations. Self-awareness is not about judgment or self-criticism. It's about clarity. It's about noticing how your words, your behavior, and your presence affect those around you. When you are conscious of your impact, you begin to lead with intention rather than reaction. You stop waiting for someone else to step up or make things right and start modeling the behavior, empathy, and courage that you wish to see in others. Leadership starts with taking full ownership of your actions and their ripple effects. Leadership also starts with accountability. It requires being willing to admit mistakes, learn from them, and course correct without deflecting blame. It's easy to point fingers, to criticize, or to wait for others to meet standards you hold yourself to. But real leadership is about demonstrating integrity in action. It's about setting a standard through consistent behavior, modeling the ethics and values you expect of others, and creating a culture where honesty, growth, and mutual respect are the norms. When you lead yourself well, others notice, and their trust and willingness to follow deepen naturally. Another critical dimension of leading yourself is the courage to act in alignment with your values, even when it feels uncomfortable or risky. Leadership isn't safe. It requires showing up authentically, speaking truths that may be difficult, and making choices that are right rather than popular. When you consistently act from a place of integrity and purpose, you create a space where others feel safe to do the same. People are drawn to leaders who are genuine, consistent, and courageous because these qualities invite participation, collaboration, and loyalty. Finally, leadership starts with the recognition that your influence matters. Every interaction, no matter how small, carries the potential to inspire, guide, or create change. When you take ownership of your presence, your words, and your actions, you begin to create a ripple effect that extends far beyond yourself. Leadership is not about authority. It is about the conscious, daily choice to show up fully, with empathy, courage, and intention. By leading yourself first, you lay the groundwork for the kind of leadership the world needs. One that is authentic, courageous, and capable of inspiring others to rise alongside you. Courage over comfort is one of the most defining principles of true leadership. It is easy to stay within the safe boundaries of routine, to say what is expected, to follow the path of least resistance. Comfort tempts us with predictability and shields us from risk, failure, and judgment. But leadership is never born from avoidance or hesitation. It is forged in the moments when we step forward despite fear, uncertainty, or vulnerability. Choosing courage over comfort means making difficult decisions, speaking hard truths, and standing firm in our values, even when it feels uncomfortable or unpopular. It requires a willingness to be seen, to take risks, and to embrace the unknown with honesty and integrity. Courage over comfort starts with self-awareness. It begins with recognizing the areas in our lives where we have been playing it safe, where we have settled for ease, avoidance, or passive compliance. When we notice these patterns, we have the opportunity to question them. Are we avoiding discomfort to protect ourselves, or are we denying growth to preserve convenience? Leadership demands that we confront these questions honestly. It asks us to act in alignment with our principles, even when doing so is inconvenient or challenging. This willingness to face fear and uncertainty is what separates those who lead with impact from those who simply follow along. Choosing courage over comfort also requires embracing vulnerability. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the openness to risk, to show up authentically, and to connect with others in meaningful ways. It is about admitting when you don't have all the answers, owning your mistakes, and asking for help when needed. True leaders understand that courage is intertwined with vulnerability. Without it, leadership becomes performative, rigid, and disconnected. With it, leadership becomes transformative, human, and inspiring. By being willing to risk discomfort, leaders create environments where others feel safe to do the same, where innovation and growth are possible, and where trust flourishes. Another aspect of courage over comfort is resilience. When we prioritize courage, we inevitably encounter resistance, criticism, or failure. Choosing courage means acknowledging that these experiences are part of the process, not a reflection of our worth. It requires persistence, patience, and a steady focus on the greater vision. Courageous leadership is about continuing to step forward, to take bold actions, and to make hard choices even when the path is uncertain. It is about holding fast to our values and principles when the easy route would be to compromise or retreat. Ultimately, courage over comfort is a daily practice. It is the conscious decision to prioritize growth, integrity, and authenticity over ease. It is what allows leaders to inspire, to create change, and to model the behavior they wish to see in others. Comfort may feel safe in the moment, but courage shapes the future. When leaders consistently choose courage, they not only transform themselves, but they also cultivate an environment where others are empowered to rise, take risks, and embrace their own potential. The choice to act courageously ripples outward, creating impact far beyond any single decision. Leadership begins at that intersection, where comfort ends and courage begins. Vulnerability builds connection. It is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful aspects of leadership. In a world that often equates strength with invulnerability, courage with stoicism, and authority with control, showing vulnerability can feel risky, even uncomfortable. Yet the truth is that authentic connection, the kind that inspires trust, loyalty, and collaboration, cannot exist without it. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or weakness. It is about showing up fully as yourself, embracing uncertainty, and creating space for others to do the same. It is the bridge between isolation and belonging, the gateway to deeper human connection, and the foundation of meaningful leadership. To lead with vulnerability, one must first acknowledge their own humanity. Leaders are not perfect, and pretending to be so only creates distance. By openly recognizing our limitations, admitting mistakes, and sharing the lessons we've learned, we demonstrate that imperfection is not only acceptable but also valuable. This kind of honesty invites others to be authentic as well. When people see that a leader can be real, approachable, and honest about challenges, they feel safe to speak up, contribute ideas, and take risks. Vulnerability, in this sense, is not a liability. It is a magnet for trust, collaboration, and engagement. Vulnerability also fosters empathy. When a leader shares struggles, fears, or uncertainties, it reminds everyone that they are human too. This creates a culture where emotions are acknowledged, not suppressed, and where challenges are met with support rather than judgment. People who feel seen and understood are more likely to engage deeply, innovate creatively, and invest their energy in collective goals. Vulnerability allows leaders to model emotional intelligence in action, showing that courage is not only about bold decisions, but also about compassionate presence. Another critical aspect of vulnerability is the courage to ask for help and admit when you do not have all the answers. Leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room or holding all the power. It is about guiding, facilitating, and empowering others. By expressing curiosity, seeking input, and inviting collaboration, leaders signal that growth and learning are ongoing and that contributions from everyone matter. Vulnerability here becomes a tool for empowerment. It strengthens relationships, builds trust, and cultivates a sense of shared responsibility. Finally, vulnerability creates connection because it allows for authenticity to flourish. People can sense when someone is wearing a mask, speaking from fear, or protecting an image. Authenticity, however, resonates deeply and inspires others to engage fully. When a leader is willing to be seen, to take emotional risks, and to model their true self, it cultivates an environment where others feel equally empowered to do so. Teams become stronger, ideas become richer, and relationships become deeper. Ultimately, vulnerability builds connection by reminding us that leadership is not about perfection, control, or fearlessness. It is about courage, empathy, and authenticity. It is the willingness to show up as our true selves and invite others to do the same. When leaders embrace vulnerability, they create a ripple of trust and openness that transforms not only teams and organizations, but also the broader world around them. Connection begins when courage meets authenticity, and vulnerability is the bridge that leads us there. Boundaries define integrity. They are the invisible lines that communicate what is acceptable, what aligns with our values, and what supports our well-being. Many people view boundaries as restrictive or selfish, but in truth, they are essential for authentic leadership and healthy relationships. Without boundaries, we risk overextending ourselves, compromising our principles, and creating environments where confusion, resentment, and inconsistency thrive. Leadership is not about pleasing everyone or being constantly available. It is about clarity, consistency, and living in alignment with the values you wish to uphold. Boundaries are the framework that allows you to lead with integrity. Setting boundaries begins with self-awareness. You cannot protect what you do not understand. Leaders must take the time to identify their priorities, values, and limits. What are you willing to accept? What is non-negotiable? How much time, energy, and emotional investment can you realistically give without compromising yourself? These are not signs of weakness or selfishness. They are acts of responsibility. When you know yourself, you can communicate clearly, act consistently, and make decisions that honor both your principles and the people around you. Boundaries become a reflection of integrity because they demonstrate that you value honesty and clarity over chaos or appeasement. Boundaries also serve as a model for others. People often learn how to respect one another by watching how leaders treat themselves. When you establish and maintain healthy boundaries, you show others that it is acceptable to say no, to protect their energy, and to uphold their values. This modeling fosters a culture of respect and accountability. Teams, communities, and organizations thrive when boundaries are clear, consistent, and aligned with shared principles. It reduces confusion, prevents burnout, and strengthens trust because everyone knows what is expected and what will be honored. Another important aspect of boundaries is courage. It takes courage to define your limits and communicate them clearly, especially when there is pressure to conform, people please, or avoid conflict. Courageous leaders understand that boundaries are not barriers, they are statements of truth. Saying no to something that violates your values is not rejection, it is affirmation of what you stand for. When boundaries are enforced with respect and consistency, they create safety, not distance. People feel secure knowing that decisions are made thoughtfully and that the leader's actions are guided by integrity, not impulse or favoritism. Boundaries are also essential for sustainability. Leadership is demanding, and without clear limits, it is easy to exhaust yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. By honoring your boundaries, you maintain your capacity to show up fully, consistently, and effectively. Integrity is not only about doing the right thing, it is about having the strength, focus, and clarity to do it over the long term. Boundaries are the structure that protects that strength. Ultimately, boundaries define integrity because they reflect a commitment to self-respect, honesty, and consistency. They create clarity, foster trust, and model a standard that encourages others to act with the same intentionality. Leadership without boundaries is unstable, reactive, and unsustainable. Leadership with boundaries is courageous, authentic, and transformative. By setting and honoring your limits, you demonstrate that true leadership is not about endless sacrifice or blind compliance. It is about acting with purpose, accountability, and unwavering integrity. Consistency inspires trust. It is one of the most overlooked yet powerful elements of effective leadership. People do not follow leaders simply because they have a title, charisma, or authority. They follow leaders because they know what to expect from them. Trust is built over time, in small, repeated actions that demonstrate reliability, fairness, and integrity. When your words align with your actions consistently, you create a sense of safety and predictability. People feel seen, valued, and confident that they can rely on you, and this trust becomes the foundation for meaningful connection, collaboration, and influence. Consistency begins with clarity. Leaders who are clear about their values, priorities, and expectations establish a framework that guides decision-making and behavior. When you communicate clearly and uphold your commitments, you reduce confusion and uncertainty. People know where you stand, and they understand the standards by which you operate. This transparency is essential for building trust because it signals that you are accountable, principled, and dependable. Inconsistent words or actions, on the other hand, breed doubt, resentment, and disengagement. When your behavior is unpredictable, people hesitate, question motives, and struggle to feel secure in their interactions with you. Consistency is also rooted in authenticity. It is not about rigidity or adherence to rules for the sake of appearances. True consistency comes from acting in alignment with your core values, even when circumstances change. It requires self-awareness, reflection, and the courage to stay grounded in your principles while navigating challenges. When leaders consistently act from a place of authenticity, they model integrity and inspire others to do the same. This creates a culture where honesty, accountability, and trust are normalized, and where people feel empowered to contribute fully and take risks without fear of arbitrary judgment. Another key aspect of consistency is follow-through. Leadership is not measured by intentions alone, but by actions. Promises kept, commitments honored, and follow-through on responsibilities are tangible demonstrations of reliability. Each action builds a track record of dependability, which reinforces confidence and trust. When people witness a leader consistently honoring their word, they are more likely to invest their own energy, creativity, and loyalty. Trust is not a one-time event. It is the accumulation of repeated, aligned actions that demonstrate integrity over time. Consistency also fosters resilience in relationships and teams. In times of stress, uncertainty, or conflict, people look for anchors, leaders whose presence, behavior, and principles remain steady. Your consistency provides that anchor. It reassures people that despite challenges, they can rely on you to act fairly, thoughtfully, and predictably. This steadiness creates psychological safety, encourages open communication, and strengthens the cohesion and resilience of teams. Ultimately, consistency inspires trust because it bridges the gap between words and actions, promises and results, values and behavior. Leadership without consistency is unstable, unpredictable, and vulnerable to doubt. Leadership with consistency creates a foundation of confidence, reliability, and integrity. When you show up consistently, with intention, authenticity, and accountability, you not only earn the trust of others, but you also cultivate an environment where people feel empowered to rise, collaborate, and thrive. Trust is the currency of leadership, and consistency is the coin with which it is earned. Leadership is a ripple. The choices you make, the way you show up, and the energy you bring into every interaction extend far beyond what you can immediately see. Leadership is not contained within a title, a position, or a single moment of influence. It spreads outward, quietly shaping the culture, behaviors, and perspectives of those around you. Every act of courage, integrity, and authenticity sends waves that touch people in ways you may never fully realize. When you lead with intention, you create a ripple effect that has the power to transform individuals, teams, communities, and even entire organizations. The ripple of leadership begins with your presence. How you carry yourself, the way you communicate, and the choices you make on a daily basis all send subtle signals to those around you. When you lead with empathy, honesty, and respect, you encourage others to do the same. Your behavior becomes a model for the kind of culture and interactions you wish to cultivate. Conversely, when leadership is reactive, inconsistent, or disconnected from values, the ripple effect can create confusion, distrust, and disengagement. Leadership is therefore not only about decisions or strategies, it is about the consistent, intentional energy you bring to every interaction. Another critical aspect of the ripple is the power of influence. Leadership is not limited to formal authority. It is about the ability to inspire and guide others through example. When you demonstrate courage in difficult moments, when you act with integrity even under pressure, when you show vulnerability and authenticity, you invite others to follow suit. People learn from what they see more than what they are told. Your actions ripple outward, encouraging collaboration, innovation, and trust. Small acts of leadership, acknowledging someone's effort, offering support, speaking up for what is right, can create waves that expand far beyond the original moment, influencing the environment in ways that compound over time. The ripple effect of leadership is also amplified by the connections you nurture. Relationships are the channels through which your influence travels. When you invest in people, listen deeply, and honor their experiences, your leadership touches them in a profound way. Those individuals, in turn, carry forward the lessons, behaviors, and inspiration they have received. Leadership is never isolated. It is relational. Each positive ripple you create can spark countless others, creating a network of influence that grows exponentially and impacts far more people than you could reach alone. Finally, the ripple reminds us that leadership is a long-term endeavor. The impact of your actions may not be immediately visible, and the outcomes may take time to manifest. Yet every choice matters, every decision contributes, and every interaction adds to the waves that spread outward. By leading intentionally, with courage, authenticity, and integrity, you create a legacy of influence that extends beyond yourself. Leadership is a ripple, not a splash. It is the quiet, steady force that shapes the world through repeated acts of purpose and presence. When you embrace this understanding, you recognize that leadership is not about control, status, or recognition. It is about the conscious, daily commitment to create positive ripples that inspire, uplift, and empower others. Every action, no matter how small, matters. And when each ripple touches someone else, it can set off waves that transform lives, teams, and communities in ways you may never fully see but can deeply trust. Leadership is a ripple, and your choice to lead intentionally is the stone that starts it all.